Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Always Almost There, Day After Show Live. We are here for the final episode of this Winter Tour 2025, and we're coming to you live from the Gerald R. Ford Airport in Grand Rapids, where I have been very heavily delayed. And we are joined by another person at this airport whose flight has also been delayed by several hours, Mr. Cotter Ellis. Thank you for joining us today, Cotter.
Of course.
Worked out very well. We were in the airport, and I was like, "Want to hop on the pod?" And here we are. So fun how that works. Surprise.
Surprise.
So we're not going to keep Cotter too long because Neil and I have a lot of fluffing to do of last night's show. But Cotter, wanted to hear from you just some overall thoughts on this past week and this tour and how it's kind of felt from the stage.
It's felt really good. I think the boys and I had a great time on this tour. For me, it was like, you know, I hit my 1 year mark right before we started this run. And so like I went in with like a newfound confidence for sure. Like really having the songs like in my, like under my belt and then like, instead of focusing on like, oh, getting me up to speed, it was now focused on like how we could be more creative with set lists, with jams, and like with song arrangements night to night. Um, and obviously, not having Jeff there, uh, we opened the tour with Rockdale, and it immediately was like, wow, this feels way different without the second kit. But I feel like it also, on some level, helped us with some of the improv connection, just having one less person. So we got to some really, really cool places that yeah, I thought we broke some new ground on this tour.
Definitely agreed. Sorry for anyone who can hear the airport announcement in the background.
Yeah.
Is there one of the shows in particular or sets that stands out to you as your favorite of the tour?
Yeah. I really liked all of them, honestly. I think pretty much front to back, this was probably my favorite tour musically, at least like for the improv stuff. Like, and also like, I'm a guy who loves like the Rockdale, Westville, Rockdale jam kind of shit.
Yes.
We get like far out, and it's really just like this fast paced communication, like going from one thing to another. And like, obviously I love the prettier jams too, but that stuff is just really, really fun because it's like connection in the moment. It's happening so fast, and when we're all feeling connected, that's really fulfilling to me. Because it's fresh and it's exciting.
Amazing.
I would say night two of Grand Rapids, set two, was my personal favorite because we had written a set list, obviously, and at set break, we were like, let's throw away the set list for set two and let's like go with what we're feeling. And I thought it was a really unique set that kind of hit all the marks. Like we started with Dripfield, we got into a really, really cool jam space, and then we like kind of like took that for an adventure and cooled it off really nicely with the Old C, and then went into like the open Old C jam, which is rare, but one of my favorite things is when that just kind of opens up to like anything can happen. Also turned out to be quite the adventure, and then like kind of brought it all home with the dance party, and it just seemed like things were flowing and connecting really well. But that was kind of the story of the whole tour too. It was a lot of moments where it felt like effortless, whereas sometimes it feels like we're kind of like climbing up the hill trying to hit that mark, and sometimes it just happens and, like organically. And yeah, and like vibes were super high the whole tour. So
Amazing. And before we let you go, one last thing. Any favorite jam from the tour?
it's a great question. I usually like need some time to process before I like remember specific jams. I know the pancakes we played, was it in Toronto?
Yeah.
That one was definitely a special one. Um, I really loved the Old Sea jam, and like the mod jams are
Yes.
coming together to be like this like dark journey that ends with like absolute fiery fucking explosion, and so those have been connecting really well too. So it's probably my top three for now. There was a lot of
Amazing.
really good ones.
Amazing. Well, Cotter, thank you so much
Yeah,
for
man.
popping in and joining us here on the pod. It's been a pleasure
Oh yeah,
chatting with you. All right.
thanks
Safe
for
We'll
having me.
let you go. Safe travels. And we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Take care, man.
Very special guest today. Very exciting to have him on. What a
Yeah.
treat.
What a surprise.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
When in
And
the
some
airport.
some like real AAT analysis there too, where like I mean he just wrote a jam chart uh for Matavan, where he's just like
That's a good point.
dark journey that explodes into whatever. And that's exactly how I feel about last night's show.
Yeah.
Which we have so much to talk about. I don't even know where we start. I mean, I guess we have to go song by song.
We're gonna start with the first set.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, going into last night, we spent a lot of time yesterday talking about how no matter what they did last night, everything was amazing, and they were already on such a high, especially after hearing from Cotter. Like Friday, second set was as impactful to the band as it was, from the audience perspective, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, going into last night, again, completely unpredictable set list for the most part. Jams coming in places that you don't expect. This has been every show this tour, pretty much. And another gigantic encore jam. Like, this
possibly
is
the best encore ever. I'm calling this the best encore ever. We're not there yet, but I can't think of anything that has ever been better than that.
Yeah, that's. I mean, yeah.
But Cotter kind of nailed it, man. We got dark jams, we got bliss jams, we got hose, we got guitar solos, we got it all in this show, dude. And let's just fluff the shit out of it. Just fire up the hasty train and just talk about all the good stuff. Yeah. Ooh. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right.
All right. Well, we open up. Give It Time, Dawn. Give It Time opener. Yes, please. More of this.
Yeah. Goes everywhere.
Amazing placement. Everybody's singing along. Obviously, it's a new single. People are very excited about it. And just the surprise of it coming in the opener slot. And it's funny because we talked about at Goose, how the way that the Balls pulled that Give It Time, it didn't really hit the same as some of the other Give It Times that have come as like, cool down after a big jam or the encore, whatever. And I think coming out cold and just going into it also hits the same. Like it was amazing. And I think that also is just because of the energy that has been throughout this run up until that point. And then to go right into Dawn and jam it out again.
That's cheating. It's cheating.
It's too good.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. It's what a move, right? Just right into Dawn, second song.
Mm-hmm.
Insane. Can I ask a question before we kind of continue? What was the vibe like in the room last night? Because it sounds like the energy was insane. But reading a lot of posts, sounds like it was even more packed than the previous two nights last night. So can you talk a little bit about that before we talk about this?
Yeah, the pre-show vibes, would you say?
The pre-show vibe? Well, not pre-show vibes, just in general. What was it like in the building?
Yeah, well, last night was sold out. The other two shows were not. So it was definitely a little more full. And I think it was again, like people had been here, one or two nights already for the most part. And people were just really, really excited for what the band was going to do. And like, we knew they were going to come out and they were going to play some amazing stuff. But it's just overall excitement. That was the vibe before the show last night. And again, like just upping the ante with these unpredictable set list calls. Like they could have opened with Dr. Darkness, Cali Magic last night, and people still would have been having a great time. But instead, they opt to do this completely out of left field pairing of Give It Time into Dawn. And again, like SOS is a jam vehicle now. Whether they play it as SOS or as Dawn here, like this is now two versions in a row that are jamming. And so the fact that they're looking for new vehicles for improvisation at this point is so cool. And that this is not the deepest jam, just like super celebratory, good vibes, hitting several peaks. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it extends the emotion that you feel when you listen to Give It Time. Then you just put Dawn right on the back half of it, and it's just keep the party going. I mean, everything is great. Pure jubilation, right?
Yep.
For, roughly 23 minutes if you include Give It Time. That's a lot of vibes to start off your show. So
yes,
really, really good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and then you get Echo, and this is a dense Echo. It's very short. This is also when like the crowd started going ape shit over the lights, because what Geddy was doing with the curtain during this Echo jam was insane. And I had a moment where I was like taking a video, and I was like, oh my God, the lights are so insane. And then I stopped and I like listened to what the band was playing, and I was like, wait a minute, this jam is ridiculous. Also, like I'd been like so tuned into the lights for a second that I was like, oh my God, like we're in like more like propulsive, dark, jam territory here, which is awesome. I wish it had gone on a little longer than the 10 or so minutes that we had with it. But man, this little dose of type 2 in this Echo was spectacular.
Strong type 2. I mean, so not to sound like a broken record, but that's what I do, I guess. But
that's what we do on this pod.
Holy smokes, they get there so fast. It's, as Cotter was saying, effortless. They find themselves in this type 2 incredible jam almost instantly. So I had this thing clocked at 13 minutes. This thing gets farther in the 13 minutes it has than, some 25-minute arrows that are out there. Yeah. It's really crazy where this thing gets to. This might be some of my favorite jamming of the night, actually, is right here in this song. Yeah. The only knock you can have against this is that there's not enough of it. But everybody's playing is outstanding. My favorite part of this, actually, is not anything that's happening musically, but the moment when Geddy changes up the curtain and the crowd roars because of the lights. What I'm saying,
yeah.
Like, I mean, that's the coolest thing ever. Cheering Geddy is an old pastime. I did it at South Farms after like the laser slow ready. I turned and like cheered at the the soundboard where he was, because he just absolutely crushed it. And then that happens in this Echo. And man, can we just talk about Rick for a moment? He kicks on the envelope filter and just it was very Grateful Dead in this moment. There's a lot of Grateful Dead vibes in this show. I don't know what it was, but the show is permeated with Jerry vibes.
Interesting.
And Rick was just kind of, maybe because he had the envelope filter on, he sounded a little more Jerry, but his phrasing even sounded a little more Jerry. I talk about the Schofield button all the time, which is, there's a moment where Rick just decides he wants to be Schofield for an extended amount of time. I think in this Echo, he just kicked on the Jerry vibes, and it sounded great. And it wasn't just the Mutron, like I said, it was like his phrasing and all of that stuff. It was so good, man.
So good. And then you get the best of the jives. Jive 2 coming here, and then the moment that I had been waiting for, the big modern, the sizable modern, the goat modern, if you will.
Really? We're calling it that.
I mean, I don't know. Do you have a big modern that's better than this one?
No, I don't know. It's good. It's 25 minutes, so
yeah,
you get a lot of modern.
It's a large modern.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah. So they come out with this. Shout out to everybody who I was staying with over the past few days, who heard me yell incessantly about how excited I was for Big Modern for 3 days. Then I was very excited when they played it, as might not be a surprise. Sorry if I'm not making any sense. I've been at this airport now for 9 hours. But this Big Modern is absolutely spectacular. And it's one of those jams. I feel like it's kind of in that Big Modern zone. Where it's just like you have that like ramp up, and it's just like a boulder rolling down the hill, and it's just picking up steam and picking up steam and picking up steam. But this peak is absolutely insane. And they kind of go back into the ending differently. They kind of skip the changes there, and they just go right back into the metal part and kind of stay in there for a little longer, which was sick. But as always, like, people going nuts for Big Modern. Every single part of this song. The song part, the chorus, the jam, the re-entry at the end, and properly finished Big Modern. Thank you for properly finishing Big Modern, Goose. Face.
You know what's funny about this Big Modern, man? It's 25 minutes. It is full of energy. Excellent set closing song. I do think this is some of the weaker improv of the night, which is interesting.
I just think that's the improv last night was like so insane. So I think
that's my point.
Weaker improv.
That is my point.
Did you say there's a high floor in last night?
Yeah, I guess we can do the high floor, low ceiling, whatever.
High ceiling, cavernous ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, super high. I mean, there's so many different ways that they did it. I just can't get over it. Yeah, so interestingly enough, this is not very adventurous, but it kind of stays in that Big Modern lane of doing what Big Modern does. Yep. And it was sick. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it.
I mean, I think that this first set is just like flawless. 5 songs, like they don't stop playing, and it's so well constructed, and they're hitting there's so much interesting jamming in here, right? Like there have been some times where there have been sets where like the song selection is really good, but like you don't get the huge jams, or like you get a huge jam, but then there's maybe some songs that don't work as well. And this has both.
It's got it all, man.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Stuff.
And then, I mean, yeah, set break, same thing. It was like, we know Thatch is coming, and that's about it. Like, what are they going to do here? And there's no give in this second set as well. Like same thing. They come on stage and they play and they keep playing, and then they play some more. And every single jam, they're tapping into this energy, this spirit that they've been building off of this whole tour. And it's spectacular to witness.
It really is. And it's interesting to hear Cotter talk about it a little bit, because my wondering was, is this intentional? Like, are they approaching these sets differently on purpose? And it sounds like that's not the case. It sounds like this is something that's happening organically. They walked off the stage and they said, this is what we're feeling in the room right now. So this is what we're going to do. And this is the second show in a row where they've done that, maybe even the third. Have they done that? Like just completely thrown out the second set 3 nights in a row?
I wouldn't say I wouldn't say they completely threw it out last night, but completely rearranged their plans. I don't know if they've ever done it 3 nights in a row. I think there's been a lot of changes, more so than usual. Just like
on this tour.
Yeah. Well, just like I don't think I've ever noted unfinished so many times on a set list.
Yeah. I mean, that is interesting too. But so it's interesting to hear him talk about that, because when I look at the result here, it is obviously very, very different. And I guess it makes me appreciate it more that it just happened because that's what felt right. And that's indicative of just everything going right. And sometimes that's the case. I talked about this before, like the sports reference or like, darts. Like some days, like you just go and you go to the bar and you like start throwing darts and you're just throwing bullseyes, right? And I feel like that's just what's happening. They're on a hot streak, yeah, it's something. So they just go there and they say, all right, this is what we're feeling. And then this is the set that you get on the other side, which is not really typical. You get 2 jammers back to back to start the second set, which is not really the flow that they usually do.
Yeah. Well, and there's no ballad or cool down in the second set, right? Like you get a ballad in the encore. But this whole set, again, as I just said, like nonstop playing and energy. And this Thatch is like, it's not a super adventurous Thatch. It's your pretty standard groovy, peaky Thatch, which is amazing. Like, and this is one of the ones where like Rick, every time you think it's the last peak, every time you think they're going to bring it back in, Rick just goes again and again and again, just like an onslaught of just nonstop peaking.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So did you get the ocean effect in the room, or was that
yes.
just really
loud
on
God.
the stream? Okay. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Oh my God. Thank you for reminding me about that. So yeah, the jam starts and Peter, goes to set up a synth drone. And I'm like, whoa, that kind of sounds like the ocean a lot. Like that's a really cool synth effect. And then it came back, I think was it Pancakes or the beginning of Pancakes. And I was like, oh, like Peter legitimately sampled a wave. And that's what's on the synth here. Ridiculous. Yeah, that was so cool.
Yeah, you know what's funny about like the really hot thatches? I have used this imagery before. Like I think I've written jam charts for Augusta.net with this imagery of just like a relentless like wave crashing over you and over you again and again and again. And then here is the sound of the ocean with a thatch that does exactly that thing,
Yeah.
which is fascinating. And like you said, it doesn't really go out there too far, but it didn't need to. I think what it needed to do, what this jam needed to do, was to be, kind of like a fun, danceable jam.
Yeah.
Because when you're, well, let's see here. Let's get a running count here. I mean, they have what, 5 songs over 17 minutes in the show. So
Yeah.
you have to take different approaches to your improv if you're going to do that much improv in the show. And then this one really just kind of stays in the thatch lane and just vibes. And that is perfect for this set, especially given what comes after.
Yes. And this pancakes that comes after is like just like awe-inspiring shit. Like I cried during this jam.
I can see how you would.
Like being in the room for that, it was just like one of the most incredible and emotive guitar solos I've ever heard from Rick. Yeah, just blew me away. Yeah, I don't know what was that like from the couch.
I don't know what to make of these jams because Goose is now doing something very, very different, right? In order to get to this space in the olden days, we'd have to be, this would have to be a 20-minute version. And this is not that at all. It's 15 minutes. And when it ended, I was like, I can't believe what just happened. But I, like you, was completely transfixed on this. Rick just took it to a whole other level. I think from the thatch all the way on. I mean, his playing was just sometimes he, like, in the way that he plays, it gets super emotional. Like you said, it was a very emotive solo. And we've heard it time and time again, like the Philly Tumble immediately comes to mind. The Arcadia from the Mission Ballroom comes to mind. Like that, those vibes were coming through him. Every once in a while, just the notes just come out perfect. And it felt like that last night. So yeah, this Pancakes was really good. Doesn't reach the heights of the other two jams that I just mentioned, but he was operating on that wavelength, I think, for sure. And yeah, man, it was really, really just the right amount of tension and bliss. Like it was a very, very weird jam on top of it.
Well, and then the segue into Dark Horse.
Yeah,
like that was an amazing segue. I actually thought I thought they were going into Mascanata for a second, as the segue started taking shape. And then, like, as soon as I said, like, oh, it's Mascanata, like, as soon as that was out of my mouth, I was like, no, it's Dark Horse. I mean, the song is so good.
They wanted that Dark Horse bad. But the one thing I will say about this Dark Horse that I thought was really interesting is you just have Rick go off guitar solo-wise. Then you have Peter go off in this Dark Horse piano solo stuff. There's like a point on the stream where Peter kind of like extends a phrase, and then Rick just kind of does like a spit take almost, where he's just like what? Like,
really?
Like, what are you doing over there? Yeah, you should check it out. You should watch the stream. But I think Peter surprised everybody with his soloing in this, his piano soloing in this Dark Horse. It was beautiful.
Yeah,
absolutely beautiful stuff.
Amazing. And then we get Hunger Sight. I mean, then Tumble, and then Sinnerman. It's just bangers only.
Yes.
Again, like, and at this point in the show, I'm like, okay, like, maybe we're not getting that marquee level jam, in this show. Like we the huge big modern, but I'm like, at this point, we're in that classic like tour closer, just like going crazy, and not necessarily as deep. Luckily, I was wrong, but we'll talk about that.
You're very
in
wrong.
a few minutes. Yeah. Yep. But the tumble into Sinnerman was funny because it looked like, I kind of thought Peter was trying to set up a segue with the arpeggiator, and like he couldn't get the tempo to like lock in quite as well, and it kind of like disintegrated, and then he just was like, fuck it, and started playing Sinnerman on piano. And Sinnerman just goes so hard every single time. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Like that's one of the ones that, like, I think you got to be in the room to really get the extent of like how that hits you. because I've been in the room for it and I've seen it all go down.
Yep.
I mean, this is like a kind of song that captivates you, not in the jam necessarily, but like right in that end part where like there's the song is actively being played and there's singing going on and people are just throwing hands everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was kind of the vibe there as well.
Oh yeah, Mark Comito basically took over the walkway above the mezzanine.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him doing that.
Jerry Cinderman.
I don't want to move on from this hunger site because this hunger site is really, really good. It's only about 17 minutes long.
But it's different, right? Like you see a 17-minute hunger site a few months ago on a set list, and you're like, okay, I know exactly what this jam sounds like, right?
Yep.
It's
Peter rips the piano, then Rick rips the guitar, and then they're done, right? That's the 17-minute hunger site.
Yeah, blazing hot 17 minutes of hunger site. Like I think like DC, that's that hunger site. Yeah, this is not. Immediately when the jam starts, different space, different direction, very intentional.
Yeah, it's I mean, they did do kind of the major key kind of slow build thing from Almost Nothing, which is kind of a hallmark thing of late 2024, now 2025, and sounds amazing. Sounds sick, and they absolutely crush it here. And this is what actually the one predictable thing in this show where I was, well, this and the Thatch, but where I was like, okay, like I knew this was going to come here, but it didn't matter. Like it didn't like take anything away from this. This was absolutely killer. Although I was surprised that the tumble came right after it, and then a very abbreviated tumble. I questioned why they chose to play it. But maybe it was just a way to find their way into Cinderman. I don't know.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was on the written set list twice, tumble. So I'm curious if they were planning on coming back to it or what the deal was. But yeah, at any rate, it was a weird way to use tumble. I think maybe they wanted to do it as like tumble is the springboard for the surprise Cinderman segue.
Yeah,
and it just didn't quite click that way. But at any rate,
the show ends after a crazy Cinderman. Then you go to encore break. What were you expecting?
Empress. I thought there was 100% chance. Like at this point, the way the show had been, I was like, oh, we're gonna get a really hot Empress to close. Everyone's gonna have their hands in the air. It's gonna be glorious. They come out and we get, first of all, rare 2-song encore. Nice 726 to start. Gorgeous intro to 726.
Very different.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, Peter had all kinds of things going on, and he was like making choices like while he was doing it. Like he had one thing, and I don't think he liked it, so he switched it. I mean, I don't know. It was great.
And it's just layering. And then, you do 726, and you're like, all right. And then I'm like, okay, like they're gonna do Empress. I had the post for the set list typed, I typed Empress, and they start Madhavan. I may have screamed a little bit. And then just like the hot tea on Friday, this was over 20 minutes in the encore of just evil, just beautifully evil Goose. Two guitar Madhavan once again, but just absolutely titanic version of this song. And again, just when you think like they've built the maximum amount of tension, and just when you think like they can't get any deeper into that zone and the tension that they were tapping into, they did over and over and over again. And it was frankly just ridiculous and an insane way to close out the run.
I love that this is the last thing that they played before this break, especially after this, 6-show run with a brief 2-show kind of something happened there. In any case, they just put the exclamation point on this whole thing.
Yeah.
With this exploration of improv that is just next level. They completely leveled up in this one. This, in my opinion, this is the best Madhavan they've ever played. And I don't think this is like hasty. Yeah, I mean, it
is objectively hasty, but I mean, honestly,
man,
I'm gonna AB it with fiddlers, but
the communication in this jam is incredible. If you're just saying like pure improv, and I'm not saying like when I listen to this, the re-listenability is this, or like this particular part like makes me feel really happy. When I just listen to it with the lens of watching these guys make music up on the spot in different ways that's really, really difficult.
Yeah.
This is it. This is the thing. They've never done anything better than this, in my opinion. There's a whole section here where I don't even know how they managed to kind of hit all at the same time, because it's almost like there's just like telepathic communication going on. It's crazy. And like, that's why I love jam music. I watch for that stuff where it's just, they're doing backflips out there improv wise. And it is unclear how they're able to do it, but that's what they're doing. So, it's not even that it's like an evil jam or anything like that. That's not it. It's the way that they're doing it. And they have leveled up. You follow the arc of jam bands and you listen to certain pockets of their career, you hear them get progressively better. Goose is getting better right now. This is a historic run. We're going to talk about this run for a while. We're going to reference this run as, remember when they were doing these things? So I'm glad that the last thing they did was an example of them doing improv at their best.
I mean, very, very well said. And we talked about yesterday, like, this is the last thing that we're going to hear from this band for 3 months, right? And it was like, make the impression. And whew, like, yeah. Yeah, sorry, I've been in the airport for 9 hours and my brain's a little fried. But yeah, I don't know. I can't wait to listen to this over and over and over again. Incessantly, repeatedly.
Yeah. Well, times. Guess what? You have to shift back into Jam of the Year mode right now, because Jam of the Year is heating up. We are going into the second round tomorrow?
Yeah. Today we are currently in the midst of our final matchups of the first round. The Apollo region is wrapping up. And tomorrow we kick off the round of 32. A reminder that this year there will still be 2 matchups every day for the duration of the second round. And Neil,
yes,
I think we can tell the people the official date of the Peter Pod.
Oh yeah, can we tell the people, because you know the date off the top of your head and I don't.
Drum roll, please.
I can't do a drum roll because my mic will break. But
I just did one. Yay! Join us next week on February the 25th. That is Tuesday, February 25th at 5:00 p.m. Eastern. We will be live with Peter. We will be breaking down the Sweet 16 of this year's Jam of the Year bracket. And, of course, we will be talking about Winter Tour because, very rare that we get to kind of peek behind the curtain and see how they feel. And so join us next week. And once again, huge shout out to Cotter. Thank you to Cotter for coming on today at the top of the episode. Really appreciate him. That was great.
It's great, dude. Had a lot of interesting stuff to say. So really quick before we sign off, back onto the Jam of the Year thing. So folks over at WTED are playing the jams. Interesting little twist now this year for the second round and beyond, I believe. They play only the jams.
I think until the Elite Eight or Final Four, they're going to go back to the songs.
Oh, yeah. And then I think they go back. But so this is going to be interesting, and I'm really excited about this. So they're going to play only the jams. You don't have any of the song to kind of mess with your brain on, picking the better of the two jams. You get only the jams. So you should go and check out WTED Radio. They air the matchups every day at noon and 8 p.m. Eastern.
Shout out.
Definitely worth it. Hop in the chat with folks. That's what the Jam of the Year bracket is all about. It's not about which song wins. It's about talking about it with your friends.
Yes. Amazing.
Yep.
Well, Neil, I totally forgot to mention, is your hair tied back or did you get a haircut?
No, my hair is tied back. Right?
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you finally chopped it all off.
I had to dress it up for Cotter.
A while. Okay.
Yeah, we had Cotter on and I was just like, got to put the hair up. No, I don't know. It's the weekend, man. I didn't really feel like combing my hair.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for these day after shows for this whole tour. It's been a blast, of course. Let us know on social media. Do you agree with Neil's take that is the GOAT Madhavan? And if so, or if not, please explain why and tell us your other favorite thoughts and moments about this tour. We will be recording a tour recap episode at some point too.
Oh yeah, we got to do that. Oh yeah, man, how the hell do we do that? Oh god.
It's going to be a lot like these day after shows, but with Jive Goose is probably going to be saying positive things about several shows in a row, which literally unheard of.
Never has happened.
So stay tuned for that.
Well, since winter 2022.
Winter 2022.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you everybody so much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. We will see you live on February 25th with Peter. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to go probably take a nap somewhere on a chair in this airport. Wish me luck. But
good luck to you.
Thank you to Goose for such an incredible tour. It's been a blast. And thanks again, everybody, for listening. You know, we love being able to do this, and we love that you're tuning in to hear us ramble about jam bands. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Now I'm really rambling. So we're going to sign off here. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your weekend. See you next time. Peace.